Hello, and welcome back to Recursed the Ice Palace with Brian. It's been a while since I looked at things. I think I failed at Mutual last time. And so let's just start things off fresh with a new puzzle, Toss, which also immediately makes me think of physics and having to, like, throw things around. But we have acid. Oh, this is interesting. Burning off the key to a door to nowhere. Oh, it's not a door to nowhere. It's a door to somewhere. And then there's an under acid thingy and a block. What happens if I look at this room in its dry state? Also, I note that that's the only chest. Although, since there's a fissure, I could always create jars. Alright. And so I could get this key in my hands. Let's see. And of course, the moment I start recording, I don't know if the mic is going to pick it up, but there's a lawnmower outside, so apologies if you're hearing that in the background. So, if I had this jar, then I would just need a key, right? So can I not do this? And hop into the jar and unlock the door. Oh! Oh! How am I ever going to get up there? With lots and lots of blocks, I suppose? How many blocks would I need? I guess just 2 would probably be enough. So let's see. I can definitely get 1. Oh, but the act of getting it burns off the key. So what I need to do is rescue the key first thing. So rescue the key so that the key doesn't get burnt in acid and lost forever. Then go fetch blocks, which have to be fetched out of the acidic wet version of the room. And how I can't possibly bring 2 blocks in, though. So how am I ever going to get, once I get through the key door, I need to have a jar that's going to have a block in it as well, I think is going to be the key. Yeah, something like that. Except for that's impossible, isn't it? No, it's probably possible. So, can I collect a dry jar that already has a rock in it? Is my question. And I think the answer is yes if I toss the block across. So if I do this. There we go. I think that is the key to the puzzle right there. Maybe? Is that the key to the puzzle right there? I also need a way to get the key inside. I think I can do that the same way, though. So here's a jar with a block. Now I need to get the key inside. I think I could just toss the key out. Yeah. So I can toss the key the same way. Boop! Oh, no. Also, if I toss the key... now it's gone forever. That's a shame. If I toss the key, it would have just unlocked the door. And this would not be in the same jar. Let's imagine that I had tossed the key and it had landed over here just for a moment. So if I had tossed the key and it had landed over there, then I would have the key here, I would have 2 blocks here, and using the 2 blocks, I think we can kind of emulate this by doing this. I'd be able to stand at this height, jump up to the platform, and jump up to the exit. So, the issue is, if instead of dropping the key off of the bottom of the world, like I did by accident, if instead I had thrown the key, it would have unlocked the door inside the jar I am not using, the jar that did not already have the block. And so the issue is that I need to get... yeah, how am I ever going to unlock the correct door when I bring a box into a dry place? Because I don't think the key hits blocks. Like, if I throw it, I think it would just go straight through these blocks the way that I'm walking behind the blocks right now until it actually hits a wall. So where could I possibly toss the key in order to have it here and available? That I don't see how to do. And that seems to be the key. I'm pretty confident with all of my other actions. Let's just verify this behaves the way I think it does. So sure enough, that immediately unlocks the door. And so now I have like a jar to an unlocked door, but I could only bring one rock in there, and I would need to bring 2 rocks in there. So that's not going to work. If I get the key out... Apologies for lawnmower noises again. The only way to get blocks is when it's wet. What can I do with the key? Remind me when this room is wet. Is there any dry space in it? No, even up here. Like if I left the key on this ledge, not that I think that would help me anyway, but the key would still get burnt in the acid. So this does seem to present a bit of a problem that I'm not sure how to solve. I feel good about the other actions though, so let's just go ahead and repeat them for the moment. Which is, if I go down here, toss a block, so now I have a dry jar with a block in it. So all I need is a block and a key. I have to bring the second block into the jar. The key to solving the puzzle, the linchpin, is how to get the key sitting in this room. Seems like the only place it can be sitting is on this ledge that I'm standing on right now. And I don't see a way to do that. Let's go ahead and collect this jar. That's the jar I eventually want to use. And let me just try something out really quick. I'm going to get a spare block because I need a block to experiment. The experiment that I want to run is this. Oops, didn't mean to hop in there. Just wanted to grab the chest. The experiment I want to run is this. If I bring an object down to the bottom of the dry floor, can I jump up here with the object? No. So that's what I wanted to know. So if I was carrying the key here, I wouldn't be able to get the key up there. If I had the key here... Ooh, this is maybe interesting. If I had the key here, and there were blocks sitting on the corner of the ledge right there, I could throw the key up on top of the block. Oh, I see it. I see it. I totally see it. Watch this. I can use a unused jar. So right now I have an unused jar, except for I can't get to the exit, can I? Here is my idea. That's not going to work. I can simply set the key down here. Now the key is where I want it to be. But now the issue is I can't get back to the exit, so now I'm just trapped. But if I could get out of this jar, then I'd have the key in the location I want it to be, I'd have another jar that has one block in it, and I'd have a block that I could bring into that jar, and then I would have all the tools that I need in order to solve the puzzle. So the issue is, if I bring the key in this way, there's no way for me to get out. Can I imagine a way for me to get out in any of these circumstances? Yes, actually I can, which is, I don't need the key to be no, I do. If I had that in the jar, If the key is not persistent, if it's burns enchantment off, then I would have to go back into the jar that has the key, which is not the jar that has the block. Is there a way to get a jar with the key and a block? I don't think there is. Because if it was a wet jar and I had a non-persistent key, then I would Hmm. Like, I could simply swim a non-persistent key down here and a block. But then it would be a wet jar, and even if I unlock the door, I couldn't get to the exit. I need a dry jar for the final thingy. So a wet jar is never going to help me. So in a dry jar, I either need 2 rocks or a rock and a key so that I can bring the other item forward into the place. Or 1 rock and the key to be sitting in a good location. And I don't see how to get the key sitting in a good location. That's the crux of the puzzle right now. Or 1 block and an unlocked door? Is there a way for me to do that? 1 block and an unlocked door. So if I have a dry copy of this chest, is there a way for me to get an unlocked door and a block? Falling off this ledge, I would only be able to carry 1 of the 2 items to toss over there. So I don't think that's possible to collect a jar where the door is unlocked and there is a block over there. And it's also interesting to me, there's like the ledge above the door and the fissure over there, and I don't yet see a purpose for that ledge. Okay, I just imagined a purpose for that ledge. Here is what I'm imagining. What if there were a rock up here, and then we sat a key up here in a wet room? This is the only purpose I can come up with for this ledge. But even imagining that possible purpose for this ledge to be here, I don't see a way to exploit it. It allows me to keep the key in the room, even when the room is wet, without burning off the enchantment. No, that's not even the case. Because if I came back into this room, a new instance of this room would not have a block. The key would immediately fall down into the acid. It is causing me to start thinking about weird things, though. Like what? Like other things that I could do by like collecting a jar while we're in like mid-physics of a room or something. Something else that I have never done? Oh, I could bring... I can't bring the chest. I could bring the chest inside a jar. I haven't brought a jar inside the chest or a chest inside the jar. I don't see another way to do it just within the set of actions that I have thought to do already. So, jar inside a chest or a chest inside a jar. First off, one observation. The final exit has to be a dry room, because there's no way to get to the exit inside a wet room, because the thing on the left-hand side is blocking it off. So we're going to need a dry room somewhere. So I could bring a jar into a chest or a chest into a jar. And the chest could also be thought of as a rock-producing room. So imagine that I had a rock-producing room with me. In that case, yeah, if I had a rock-producing room with me, then all I would need is a dry thing with the door open. And then I could carry in the chest that's the rock producing room, but the problem is if it's dry, I can't produce rocks. I can only produce rocks when it's wet. Okay. And that's the chest, and then I can create jars. And the jars would not be... Yeah, a wet jar is not particularly useful, right? It's basically kind of the equivalent of a rock, because the only thing I could do with this, really, is to go get a rock out of it, I think. That is, I could go grab a rock out of the jar and come back with the jar, but in that case, why bother carrying the jar around? I could just be carrying the rock around. If I brought the chest into a jar, I would have a chest right here. But either I would bring it into a wet jar and then have a wet chest. I could bring it into a wet jar and have a dry chest up here. But where would the key be? Yeah, I don't know a place that the key could be safely during all of that. So a wet jar and a wet chest isn't going to help. A wet jar and a dry chest that was sitting on a rock up here doesn't seem like it would help, because I don't see how I could ever get the key in. So then let's imagine a dry jar and a wet chest, or a dry jar and a dry chest. So imagine I was in a jar at the bottom left, and I can have the key there. What if I bring in a jar, a wet jar with a wet chest? Then I can only bring one rock out of it. And I need 2 rocks. Yeah, the only way to smuggle wetness into this room is inside of a jar. If I open the key first, open the door first with the key, I don't have to worry about... Okay, here's an idea. Yeah, let's try this idea. If I open the door now, and then collect the jar of this room, I now have a dry jar where the door is open. So all I need to do is bring in the tools to produce 2 rocks. This chest could produce rocks if it were wet. It's not wet. I can't carry out multiple things out of a jar, so I would need to bring the chest. Yeah, there's no way I can ever get 2 rocks into here now. I could bring 1 rock in and I'd only have 1 rock. I could bring the chest in and I wouldn't be able to produce any rocks. I could bring in a wet jar that contained the chest, but then the act of hopping out of the jar would break the jar, and so I could only carry 1 thing out, which would amount to 1 rock. So I still can't get my 2 rocks. So this jar that I have produced by spending the key does not seem to have helped me. And I still haven't made use of the ledge up in the upper left, which, working under the pretty reasonable assumption that all puzzle elements exist for a reason, implies that I'm missing some aspect of the puzzle. So, Let's just try to utilize that aspect of the puzzle. Oops. Let's try to utilize that aspect of the puzzle, since I have not yet done so. So we're going to save the key. We're going to grab a couple of rocks, because rocks are great. And then we are going to attempt to make use of the dry space in one way or another. Let's do, I don't know, something like this. Let's create a dry area right there. Let's capture a jar of this. And then what? I now have a jar that contains some dry space, so I guess let's bring the chest in there. Sure. So now I'm in a wet version of the room. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. So I'm in a wet version of the room, which means I could produce more blocks. That's pretty cool. And I also have the opportunity to go into a dry version of the room and something. Grab a dry copy of a jar. I could even bring a block into it. I guess that's at least somewhat productive, so let's do that. Let's grab a dry jar with a block in it. Okay, so here's a dry jar with a block. And I could bring another block into it. And the issue is just the key now. Let's go ahead and bring the other block into it. So I'd be in this situation. So was there a way to unlock this door? And I think the answer is no, and the reason is I could never bring the key in any spot there unless there's a way. Maybe if I burn the enchantment off the key at some point and just unlock the door? When exactly? Oops. Yeah, that's fine. Let's grab a couple of rocks like usual. And then when is the appropriate moment to try to bring the key in? Like eventually I am going to use a dry copy of the chest. Yeah, that's the issue. I don't see a good time. Like, you could never bring the key into the wet copy of this room without losing the enchantment forever. And if you bring the key into this wet room, then you wouldn't have the chest. Unless the chest were already in there in a jar. Okay, that could be interesting. The chests were already in there in a jar. Words. Things are starting to happen, maybe. So I have a wet jar. Now, let's think about this. Oh, here's a question I don't know the answer to. And I'm going to attempt to find out the answer to it. Can I do so? Yeah, okay, I know what I need to... Well, I know a thing I need to experiment with that is part of this game's physics that I don't yet understand. And it involves putting the key in a certain spot given the state of a jar. So I'm going to have a hard time saying words that explain this before I actually do it, so just be patient with me for a moment so that I can do it. Alright, so I'm going to grab a couple of blocks, even though I'm not sure I need both of them yet. Okay, so the thing I want to know is, if I have a wet jar with a block at the left end of it, like so, wet jar with a block at the left end of it, and then I bring the key in here. And now put a block at the left end of this room. I think that's probably close enough. And then throw the key on top of the block. I think that'll work. So now the key thinks it's sitting on top of a block in the dry copy of this room. Now, when I exit this room, the block is going to disappear. The key is going to remember that its state is there. And so my question is, and I'll bring a block in just for fun, where is the key going to be when I jump into this jar? Will it be sitting on top of the block that was left in this jar, above the acid, or will the key fall down and not be able to sit on top of a different block that was in the same location? And the answer is the key does manage to stay up there. Okay, so that's interesting edge case physics that probably will have an application to this puzzle just because of the way that the Ice Palace puzzles are constructed. And in any case, I've managed to do something that I haven't done before, which is safely bring a key into the acid-filled room. How or why would that help me? I don't know that I know just yet. But now I do have access. The key is already in the room. And I have access to wet and dry copies if I brought the chest in here rather than the block in here that I'm currently holding. So I guess let's bring the chest into this room after I have the key sitting up here. Because I could produce more blocks. It seems like there's possibilities, basically. Okay, so let's try to bring the chest into this room that has the floating key. And you just saw me do the actions, oops, that get us into that state. So I'll just jump ahead to when I'm there. Darn it. Darn it. Okay, this time I am bringing the chest into this place. So, I am eventually going to need a dry room. Oh no, the key just moved down. I didn't think about that. Now I think the enchantment's going to burn off the key when I exit this room. But this would be where I would go for the exit. So let's imagine I still have the key available here in an enchanted state. It might be okay that the key is still like that. Probably not, though. I can produce as many rocks as I want, which is nice. But I can't bring all of those produced rocks into the dry copy of the room. The only dry copy of the room is right here. And yeah, but I can make a jar of it. So if I made a jar of it with one of the rocks, then I have a jar. I could bring the key in, but I couldn't bring the other rock in, huh? Yeah, so it seems like I'm still short, because I can only bring one object into the jar. Ah, but the key could have been in a good spot in the jar. Well, that's an interesting thing. The only place the key could safely be... Let's set one of these things down in a different spot. Okay, here we go. The only place the key could safely be is still like up top, and then I wouldn't be able to get the key from the jar. Yeah, I'm not sure how I would do this. There's too many objects in one spot. I want to pick up the key and bring it into the jar. Yeah, there'd be no way to set the key here. Inside the jar? Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like I'm very close on this puzzle, but I'm still not sure how to move the key around. Let me give it one more stab. Unfortunately, there's a lot of setup in order to get into that state. Okay, so back in this state. We're in a room where both wetness and dryness are available. The key is in the exit room, currently precariously, but safely. If I go into a dry copy, I burn off the enchantment. If I go into a wet copy, I don't burn off the enchantment yet. Yeah, I do. Gosh darn it. Oh, this is tough. So there goes the key's enchantment. I can produce more rocks later. My only chance to save the key is now. Yuck. Okay, so I made the same mistake 2 different ways at this point. So I've been left with an unenchanted key. But yeah, again, even if the key were enchanted, the only place it could sit is up top, which isn't going to help me. What if... What I need is a way to get a dry jar and then bring the key like into the dry jar to like open the door. If I bring a key into the dry jar, like I can't, if I hop out of the jar, it's gone. I guess it was an unenchanted key. But then, yeah, A, there's no way to hop out of the dry jar, and B, even if I could, going back to the previous screen would be wet, and the key, if it still had the enchantment, would be sitting down here in the acid and have the enchantment burned off. So I'm still missing something, and I'm not seeing what it is. And it looks like this is going to be an episode where I solve 0 puzzles. Yuck. Yeah, this game is hard. I don't think I'm going to solve all the puzzles and paradoxes. I'm not even sure that I'm going to be able to solve all of the puzzles. I'll think about this one again off camera before next time, but next time we might move ahead to Cupboard or another one. And at some point can look back at High Tide and Mutual, but this is rough. And I don't feel like I am coming up with any new tools for my own analysis to help me out. Maybe when I'm editing this video and off camera, I'll be able to come up with something for next time. But yeah, having a tough time. Hope you guys are having a better day. Hope you guys are having a great day. And I will see you when I see you with more of Recursed the Ice Palace with Brian. A very, very hard game. Bye-bye.